Welcome to another episode of the Record Shepherds. It's been a while, guys. How y'all doing?
Good.
We are honored. We are very honored today to have the marvelous, sensational, talented, inspirational, just all of the positive vibes. We are welcomed by Franklin and Grace from the band Big Stuff.
Welcome, guys. Welcome,
We gotta put in a laugh track at some point.
Yeah,
or not a laugh track, a clap track. We gotta get a clap track.
We're laugh track. Like, it's big stuff.
Yeah. So, for our audience, as y'all know, the goal that we try to meet here is, giving our audience advice within the music industry, having relevant conversations, putting people in front of the camera that can give advice, because at the end of the day, Jason and I don't know everything, and it's just good to get different experiences. So seriously, thank you guys for coming in. We really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you guys have 2 projects out and a few singles as well.
Yeah.
And I started listening to you guys heavily after I saw your show for the first time. I believe it was like Arlene's or something like that. Arlene's Grocery. It was one of them. It was about a couple, maybe like a month ago. I think that's the last time we saw each other. Pianos. It was at Pianos. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
same difference.
Pianos, right.
And to that, what really impressed me is you guys have been a band for 2 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Coming up on.
And the amount of catalog that you already have out is super impressive. And I think it just speaks to your overall consistency and, something that a lot of bands could learn from nowadays. It's, a lot of folks are precious with their music or they keep it for too long, but you guys are just really consistent, churning out the songs and, just doing your thing. So, yeah.
Yeah, so it's an absolute pleasure. You're actually our first artist guests, so it's a big thing. So we're honored that we've actually got some guests of your caliber, because honestly, I think that the audience that we're going and that we're trying to reach are a lot of people who are on the same journey as you guys are on, and possibly not even as far along that journey. And I think that you guys have got a lot of valuable experience that hopefully you can share with some of the listeners. So so it's a good thing.
Definitely, we'll share just about anything. So.
Yeah. So what do you guys have going on recently? You had a show last night, right? How was that?
Yeah, we had a show last night. It was it was good. It was a really good lesson in how to deal with sound men, because we had some issues.
Talk about that, because
with the sound.
But Danny doesn't have a mic today, but he is sitting in the corner, and Danny is a sound engineer. So let's go easy on all the sound engineers.
Yeah. So it wasn't the best experience.
What happened?
No, well, there was sort of an issue with some bands turning in their stage plots, so how many mics and stuff they needed, so they were sort of behind. I think by the time they got to the end of the, by the time they got to us who were headlining the show, I think the sound guy was just kind of annoyed, so he was rushing us, and then he tried to, he was sort of vibing me even though I asked him to sound check me, he was like, no, we don't need to check bass or guitar, but then he stops the show in the middle to say bass and guitar are too loud.
Oh no.
So that was confusing for me, and then he tries to cut the show about 15 minutes early, which was in no way, shape, or form what he was supposed to do. We went on at 10:15. I asked for our house. They said we had until whenever. There was no hard break. So he tried to cut us early. So then I had to in front of the audience, I had to beef with him for a good couple seconds.
And that's not a good situation you want to be in as a sound guy, because the audience will always choose the band.
Of course, but it sort of put a damper
bad vibes
in the vibe. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And then after people were like, what was up with the sound guy? And I was like, I don't.
It's
I
hard
don't
when
know.
your audience is walking away with that that's their first thing that they ask you, rather than experiencing the show. And so it's difficult in the music industry when one person can really change something that you've been working hard towards. So bit of a bummer, but
yeah, I think that's kind of a good segue into band roles. So when stuff like that happens, who's usually the one to sort of take the charge and take reins on that? Is it a shared responsibility, or just
Well, in person is usually me because I'm very confrontational compared to Grace.
Yep.
Grace has a non-confrontational attitude about things, but I'm very fine and very
I
into
asked
it.
for more of me, and he was like, "That'll be fixed when the bass and guitar turn down." It was not, and I was like, "Okay."
Yeah, no. So
He's
he
having a day.
and he clearly tried to. Am I allowed to curse?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Like he clearly tried to like. I mean, I'm not gonna curse right now. I just want to know for the future.
I was going to say, no, give us the first 5 minutes.
Yeah,
the,
yeah.
the YouTube
Right.
algorithm penalizes us, but after 5 minutes, you can say,
Okay, yeah, I'll save him. But like, him trying to cut it early, he definitely expected us just to cut it. Like he was fully expecting, because when I said something back to him, I turned around and checked my phone. I was like, it's 10:48. It's nowhere near time. We're gonna finish that set, and he went dead quiet. So he clearly just expected us to just kind of just do a song and end, which was crazy, because like we went on at 10:45. 10:15. We brought 90% of the audience probably, and you expect us to do a 30-minute set after you started late because you didn't have your stage plots, because you didn't follow up with the bands. You sent one email a month ago and you just decided you were just gonna wait, no follow up or nothing. Like, we had our stage plot in, so like, we're gonna do our set. We're gonna keep it to the length that is said in the email, which afterwards he claimed that he sent a new one that changed that set time, and I was like,
yeah, that's
I don't see that
frustrating.
email.
That's very frustrating.
What I think is funny in the industry is that every side of a confrontation, whether it be like a label or artist or sound person, artist, is like everybody will justify their side. So he's probably, getting dinner with his sound engineer buddies talking about how, oh man, that band last night, they were giving me so much trouble, Like, it's like that person's probably having that same conversation, thinking that what they did was right.
And at the end of the day, it's a bummer because we're all in this together. Like, he has a job because we have a job, because the venue has a job, because the bartender has a job. Like, we all sort of have to come together to put together this entertainment for people. So to make money, to move, to make moves in the industry, to get, we had photographers come out to get content, stuff like that. And when someone is just actively working against that in the system, it's an immediate problem. And I play with I do a lot of freelance guitar playing, so I play with a lot of different artists. I played Mercury Lounge a ton of times, all these places, and soundmen seem to all, it's really this like live sound guy. It's either be like disengaged or like weirdly like too engaged sometimes, and I've ended up in a lot of situations where I can't hear any vocals, this or that, and then I have to come up to the mic and be like, hey, you got to put this in my monitor. And as soon as you call them out during a show, even if it's a very kind and respectful way, just so you can perform better, it's an immediate like wall is up between you and sound.
That's interesting. And like in all those experiences, what have you learned is the sort of approach? Because I guess there's going to be a lot of people probably in similar shoes thinking, Jesus, like, what are we actually meant to do? Like, have you found an approach that works best?
Yeah, it's to have an extra boost pedal on my pedal board for when he doesn't put me in the monitors, because they never want to put guitar in the monitors, yet they want our amp volumes on their like Fender Twin. Like huge Fender Twin
let's give real
to be
advice.
on like one. But that is real advice. It's like, at the end of the day, like, you have to put on a good show, and his job is to manage sound in the house. So like, if I can't hear myself, or I can't hear, the singer and stuff like that has to be managed somehow. Like, I can't just go through the whole show not being able to hear what I'm doing.
And I feel like as an artist, there is an art form in terms of performance on how you fix your sound while you're on stage. Because I don't think, obviously, sound issues are not unique to these small venues in New York. We've seen big artists, trying to fix their sound on stage, and I've seen like singers will like sing, in the mic, like, my sound is not working, fix it, while they're in the middle of their song. So I think that's an art form in and of itself, like a performance thing you have to learn.
And it also speaks to the industry, like, I guess the live music industry, because they wanted us for a sound check at 1 p.m. And none of us are famous artists. I make my money doing lots of different stuff. So at 1 p.m. I was at my regular Sunday church gig that I do every week. So like, I can't make that sound check. And like, I've done gigs on a Wednesday where they're like, oh, we have sound check at 2 p.m. Like, it's a Wednesday. Like, what do you think I'm up to? Like, I'm not just like in my house chilling. Like, I'm at work because I'm a working artist. So I think the sound check on like so he brought that up last night. He's like, you should have been there at the 1 p.m. sound check. I'm like, that can't be how this whole thing is run.
Right.
Is having our 8-piece band, open at 1 p.m. on a, I don't know. This is more of a grant than it is.
No, absolutely.
Than it is
No, it's. I mean, this is actually interesting. I wanted to talk about this because there are 8 members of the band. What does that look like? I mean, obviously, like for things like sound checks, 2 p.m. on a Wednesday sound checks. I mean, good luck with that. But just more generally, when it comes to organizing rehearsals, studio time, all that sort of thing, how does that work when you've got such a large number like that?
And are you two are the main songwriters, right? In the group? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't call it these, but we do a lot of like sectionals. We meet individually for rehearsals and recordings as well, because there's really no way. I don't think we've ever had a rehearsal with all 8 members in the room.
No, we haven't.
No.
That's interesting. So, like, I guess you see each other on stage, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll see. Like, I think for this last one, I met with, like, drums, bass, keys, myself, and Grace, and then separately, Grace met with the background singer, and then I met with like trumpet and like percussion / guitar separately, and like sort of hipped everyone separately. And when they got to the stage, and also these are super, they're friends of ours. We know them really well, and these are also like super high caliber musicians. Like in my opinion, some of the better musicians around the city. So
wow,
I can put a lot of sort of pressure on them, and they just sort of take it really well, which is very, very useful. Is to have members in your band that are just like, better than you. So when you give them stuff, they're right on top of it.
Yeah, and you guys are the songwriters, and I guess it's been that way from the start, right?
Yeah, we have a few co-writes here and there, but we're the main. So, we have Grace.
Yeah, May, Grace May.
Shout out to Grace May.
Daniel Hines.
Dan Hines.
That we have written with in the past.
Yeah. And then we had like Nick Hansen and Kendall and them.
Oh,
so
yeah, that's true. We have a few features.
But we're the main songwriters for sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Just started during the pandemic. We were writing and had nothing else to do with them, so we sang them.
So yeah, I was gonna say, taking a step back, because y'all have been a band for almost a couple years now. Yeah. So maybe talk us through how the idea came of forming the group. What was that like? I'm assuming it was during the pandemic. So talk through that.
It was actually briefly, like right before the pandemic, where we had written our first song, Water Me, and we went to record it in the studio with Sean Whitehorn, who's like this brilliant like tenor, just amazing voice. That's on our first project, and we had a few songs ready to go, and we actually wrote them. The session was on the day that Kobe died, but there was someone in our band named Kobe. He's a drummer. So we got a message that Kobe Bryant died. We were like, oh shit, Kobe died. And then Peter, who's the engineer, like came out the studio and was like, what the fuck? Like Kobe's dead? Like, and we were like, oh no, like Kobe Bryant. But like he was like, yeah, like that was like the scariest moment. I was like, oh man, it was a very strange one. But anyway, so back to the album. So we wrote these songs. Actually, we were going to give them to other artists. That was make a.
We're making project, like a collaborative album.
So we wouldn't actually sing anything. We were kind of just like record them and write them.
Yeah, we never really considered ourselves as artists. We were working on an album that would feature other artists, because we both studied songwriting, and like Frank performed like as a guitarist, and then I just always considered myself only a songwriter. And then once the pandemic hit, we didn't really have access to anyone else, just ourselves. And so we decided to just kind of start recording it alone.
Exactly. Yeah,
and it really, so it came from the collaborative album, and then we started making these like ridiculous videos in our house as we would write these songs and then like record these like really silly Facebook videos that our parents loved. And so we just kept doing it. And then it kind of just like turned into something more like naturally. And then we were like, oh, let's just release this project. And then it kept going. Yeah.
Yeah, because we didn't actually do our first gig until
way later, like a year later.
It was like April 2021 or something.
Yeah, I
or-
guess that was like
Yeah.
COVID and everything.
And that was
like
that was a cover gig. Like we didn't even do any originals. I think it was like a cover gig at the Groove.
Yeah.
Oh wow,
So,
that's good. That's well, I mean, I guess that would have allowed you to get the live thing together a little bit, and you had time to like practice and hone that sound. So maybe, because I imagine there'd be a lot of like bands in that position that started during the pandemic and then had to wait essentially.
I think it's such an amazing leap of faith to trust yourselves and trust your own artistry, because I've seen you play a few gigs in the city. I know a few people that you've co-written with, and I feel like in the world of musicians and instrumentalists and producers, there's always like maybe this sort of thing in the back of our own minds where we're thinking, maybe I could give it a shot. Like maybe I could invest in my own music rather than giving my talents out, to other people. So yeah, how was that? Was it like a conscious decision, or like, as you said, just sort of slowly happened? But was there like we have to invest in our own artistry at this point?
It was like definitely sort of a mix between like we had these songs that we were writing. We were like, it'd be great. Sorry. Like we had these songs we were writing. It'd be great to like get them out in some way, shape, or form. Which is why we went to the cover thing first. Not the cover thing. The collaborative album first. And then once the pandemic hit, we were just sort of sitting at the house with all this gear, and we were like, well, I don't want to say like boredom is not even close to the word, but almost like going a little stir crazy. We were like, you have all this creative pent up energy, and like after I went from playing like 4 or 5 gigs a week to like no gigs, so that I decided and we were writing a ton and everything, and all of a sudden all that creative output, which was just suddenly stopped. So by the time
that's intense. Yeah, like it's an intense build
exactly.
Up.
So by the time we got to like May, no, it was like April. By the time, like mid-April, when it seemed clear like we weren't coming out the house for a little bit, we were like, all right, yeah, we should probably. This whole pandemic is clearly a sign for us specifically.
Do you feel like you needed? Maybe it's weird to say, but do you feel like you needed something like the pandemic to sort of like wake you guys up?
Yeah, I definitely feel like Big Stuff would not have existed without the pandemic happening.
Because I don't think I would have taken my foot off the gas in terms of like freelancing and stuff.
Yeah,
we were just on very different paths.
Yeah, and Grace had a full-time job working for Times Square, so like we both were full-time working like 5 to 7 days a week. Yeah. So there was no way we were gonna think about starting a band. And then once the pandemic happened, and the band and then once our schedules came back, we like worked it around it, so it was easy because I was already in place. So we were like, okay, so, Grace and them not working the full time anymore. I ended up still doing the same amount of gigging, but like making sure that the Big Stuff dates were like cemented. Making sure those were like clear. You're clearing them out months in advance to make sure that we can make all the band stuff. Finding rehearsal times, we were like willing to work around it at that point because we liked what we were doing. Yeah,
totally. And I think that's so important for a lot of artists out there to kind of know that like a lot of people in this situation do have like a normal life. It's not like they're like born to be an artist and that's what they've been doing from the start. There's like people have got bills to pay, people have got mouths to feed, all that sort of thing. But I think like I remember, I think this is a Noel Gallagher quote. People used to ask him, when he was churning out all the hits, like where did he find the time when he was touring with Oasis and things like that. And he, in the Noel Gallagher sort of philosophical way, his answer was something along the lines of, the time finds you when you're a songwriter like that. If you've got like it inside you, like you're talking about, where it depends, but eventually it's gonna have to come out in some way. But as you say, Tim, like you need that like impetus, and it sounds like the pandemic, well, you made the most of it. It's sort of so, and Big Stuff has come out of that.
I mean like you were saying, right, we know so many talented people, like people that could sing their asses off, but unfortunately, maybe no one will ever know who they are because it's taking that leap of faith and taking that next step. That's hard for a lot of people. It's not an easy thing, especially like you were saying, you have a full-time job, you get comfortable, you're sort of settled, and maybe that passion sort of fades away a little bit.
Yeah, the comfort zone will kill you.
Yeah.
Also, I feel like one thing I've learned through the band experience is that having a band really is a full-time job. Like, it takes so much work, and even if you do have like the passion and the talent, like if you don't have the work ethic or even the time, like with myself, like having the full-time job, it was actually impossible for us to get the band off the ground. Like, I feel like at least one of us needed to have a little bit of extra time. And so I feel like that's unfortunate that it holds folks back who have so much talent, that we just aren't afforded that time sometimes in life, and that ability to like take that leap of faith. So I felt like really fortunate that like I was able to do that and like step back from my full-time position and like be able to work at like getting the band off the ground.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah, bring on the 4-day work week.
4-day work week.
Honestly, yeah, I feel like there would be so many, like we would know so many more names if there was a 4-day work week, because it's really intense.
I heard that they're doing another pilot in the UK. There's a lot of these European companies who are like, seriously looking at pilot schemes for what, a 4-day work week.
But
man.
I did hear they were doing like 10-hour days though. Like it's definitely expanding the date. So it's 4 days, but they're getting their 40. Definitely.
In Europe?
Yeah.
All right.
No.
Yeah, well, let's go on. Like we've got Danny in the corner, and he's got some great questions. He's without a mic, so he's doing his best to communicate the questions. We also have Beetle the Beagle.
Beetle the Beagle.
You might, for anybody watching on YouTube, he's a bit restless today, so he's been running around a bit, but sleeping just now. But Danny, that's a good question. Let me say it one more time. I guess. There are a few questions we'd like to sort of get on to, and I will communicate Danny's question. When it came to your brand and social media, I think it's fair to say that you guys, that's something that Big Stuff does pretty well. And I was on the website, etc. I think it's a great website.
Amazing.
And
amazing
have you
branding.
seen it?
I have seen the website. I checked it out.
So how did you go about, who in the band, is it a joint thing, is responsible for the brand and the social media? Tell us about that.
My Instagram is like, I had an issue, got hacked a while back. It's
we don't need to give the full.
Canceled, so it's all her.
The social media. Even if he had access, I don't know what he would do.
That's a good point.
But yeah, I mean, I am in control of the social media. Honestly, it's so nice to hear that it's good, because I feel like I'm changing it all the time. It's like hard to land on a brand, especially because there's so many personalities in the band. So I'm like, how can we have all of those shine? And for a while, it was just us. And so that was really all I posted about. But I feel like now I've been like really trying to make a conscious effort to include, like I said, everybody in the social media and the website. As you can see, like we have everybody listed. And I feel like that creates like a more cohesive brand, because people understand like Big Stuff isn't just Frank and Grace. It's like an 8-piece collective.
Yeah. And also like booking some like photo shoots. Like we try to have a photographer at every gig we're at.
Yeah.
Like we cultivated a pretty good relationship with this one photographer, Lydia. And she's great. So she
shout out to Lydia Kenny.
Shout out Lydia.
Yeah, she's a wonderful photographer.
Yeah. Which is like a really important.
Totally.
Even more so than like a videographer, because videography is great, but that you gotta have good sound. You gotta have a lot of stuff going on for good videography to make an impact.
Yeah.
But like having a photographer that you work well with is like.
So we were talking
imperative.
about this, like on a previous episode, we were talking about building the team, and we were sort of saying that like a lot of the time getting started, you kind of just got to collaborate with like people in different fields of artistry or whatever, who are also trying to do their thing. They're trying to build their portfolio, get their connect, all that sort of thing. How did the relationship with Lydia come about?
We opened for another artist, Rebecca McCartney, and Lydia offered to take photos for us as well. And then she just introduced herself afterwards, which was a great tactic, because she just sent the photos to us afterwards without us even asking, and then said, oh, like, if you have any other shows coming up, like, I'm available. And
Clever. That's clever.
And the photos were wonderful, and we've had her at almost every show since then.
Yeah, fantastic.
And like, you know, we, like, Peter, who's in our band now, he was he ran the studio that we first recorded at. He's since upgraded the studio. It's called Short Stack. It's in Greenpoint. It's a beautiful studio. And, like, we work there a lot, and, like, we tend to find ourselves using the same people over and over again, which I think is, like, so important, like you said, for, like, building a team. And, like, this is, like, another thing, like, also, like, making sure that you, like, definitely compensate people, like, for because, like, that's a big thing that, you know, money is sometimes taboo to speak about, but, like, I found that's, like, such a big part is, like, making sure that people are, like, compensated for their work, because as good of a person you are, good as a hang as it is, like, that's their job. So that's something that, like, we've tried to be, like, on our shit about.
Totally.
It's, like, making sure everyone's good.
Nobody likes talking about money, but in my experience, like, I think Americans are a little bit better than the Brits. Brits are terrible to talk about money. So
I also feel like too, when you compensate somebody, you're able to hold them accountable, and there's no like mixed sort of, like, confused, like, this is not a favor, you know. And I feel like that can be misconstrued when you're working with friends, like, you know, and you expect something out of them, but then it doesn't pan out because there's the timing, you know, like, for whatever reason it just doesn't work out. So I think, you know, compensation is definitely important for that.
Totally. And I guess, you know, compensation and being upfront about compensation and having those those conversations.
Yeah,
that's a good takeaway for sure.
So I want to talk about how you guys release music, right? So you guys go through the songwriting process, you've recorded it, you've come up with a fire track. Walk me through the thought process of how you guys promote and distribute your music.
I don't know if we'll try to make it interesting, but I feel like we're still learning how to promote our music. But
I think we're just in the same spot as a lot of people, whereas like we do a lot of stuff with, like, Submit Hub, which is, like, where a lot of people find themselves sometimes.
Talk about what is Submit Hub.
It's essentially like a place where there's, like, you know, playlists, where people run playlists and some people run blogs and websites, and you submit your music, and if you submit it, they, like, I think, like, you pay for credits, and you submit it, you know, submitting music as, like, 1 or 2 credits, and they have to listen to it, otherwise you get your credit back, and they can either put it on their playlist, or they can choose to talk about it in their blog, or they can choose not to. But I think whatever they end up doing, they have to give you some sort of, like,
feedback.
Yeah, like some sort of little feedback on it, which is usually useful. It's not the best thing in the world, but when we first started, it actually helped us out a lot. Like, we got into some pretty solid, like, there's one playlist, Lazy Friendly, that was really big in, like, the Philippines, I think. Like, our song Truth Is, like, got, like, 10,000 something streams from that, just because it got popular.
But you do find that it's not, it doesn't really carry over. Like, I feel like you find that a lot on streaming platforms is you're not really gaining many, like, real fans from that. You're just gaining numbers.
Right.
But numbers can occasionally yield real fans.
Right.
Because, like,
but not really.
I mean,
it's great to have on our. It's great to have on Spotify. Like, it's always nice to have a good number.
If you book,
but, like, I'm just saying that, like, Submit Hub isn't really. You're not really gaining a lot from it, unfortunately.
It's definitely no guarantee.
I guess the positives are that if you are getting those numbers, right, your music is getting out there. You've got the opportunity to reach more of an audience.
Yeah.
But it's no guarantee of fans.
But it does help. Like, because people are listening. Like, it's not bots on Submit Hub, or at least 90% of it is not bots. They're actually people who are running playlists, and it does end up so in a way like legitimizing your band, like when you submit your band to like festivals and gigs and stuff, trying to book. I think last time we released a song, we peaked out around 15,000 monthly listeners. That was like our peak.
But that was from an editorial playlist.
I know, but
yeah.
But that's still amazing. That's still for an up and coming band. That's still amazing.
Yeah, and it helps a lot when you're trying to book. Like we booked, I think it was but we booked this festival Mac Rock down in Virginia, and I'm not saying that correlates, but it does in a way legitimize your band when someone looks on your Spotify and you have 15,000 streams and your top songs at 30 something. So even if the streams didn't necessarily carry over into real fans, it does in a way like show like, all right, so this is a band that can get listeners and people seem to like their music, and like it, I can feel comfortable hiring this band and knowing I'm getting at least some sort of a quality product, which I know is like weirdly superficial, but like that's what it is. Like you got to have a good face.
Yeah, 100%. Well, actually, another question for you, and we've already heard at the start that there are a lot of challenges to live and sound engineers, etc. But what about actually when it came to 2021? You're ready to go out and start doing shows. How did you find that, like doing that for yourself?
There was definitely a lot of. It wasn't so bad because we were all already performers. Like
so you got a head start in that.
Definitely, because we had a residency at the Groove, which is what was it? 4 hours once a week, every week for the whole summer of 2021, and that's actually how we sort of chose our band too, because we cycled some members, found some combos, bass and drum combos that we liked. That's what we ended up with Mike and Kobe, because they sort of helped us finish out the summer, and they were just so strong. That's our bassist and our drummer, respectively. And then, so by the time I think our first like big show that we were the headliners was at Rockwood, and like we got a really good turnout for it. Like, we had all bands that we knew open up for us, so it was definitely like an easier step in because we had already been performing and we'd been played these songs 1,000 times, and like I said, like the band was all super killing, so they were all like, it was very low stress. Like because the whole band was so just on top of it, and like so I at no point was I like, are they gonna catch this break, this and that. It was very. And like also like just rehearsing too, just making sure you get rehearsals in. Yeah,
I think that's a big part of artist development that's maybe missing today. Sort of going back to your conversation, you're talking about Submit Hub. I think there are two schools of thought when it comes to breaking an artist. It's like you have artists that are super good at the digital game, have legitimate streams, but they've never performed a live show. And surprisingly enough, it's very hard for artists like that to book rooms, to sell out rooms. And you see a lot of artists, major artists, whose tours get canceled or rescheduled because they can't fill those rooms. And then you have artists who maybe they're not streaming at that level, but they've been playing so long and they've done the work, they put in the groundwork, and they can sell out shows, but maybe their streaming isn't like up there. So there's like a sweet spot. But I think the fact that you guys put in that time to rehearse is super important.
Yeah, I think we definitely fall pretty solidly in like the like I think we're a great live band because like everyone in the band is just a live performer.
Right.
So we're all pretty much built for to do that at a high level.
Yeah.
But so we definitely feel like a bunch of old farts sometimes.
Not at all.
Like I had
right.
I mean like you say not at all until like you're on a set with like a bunch of 19-year-old NYU students and they brought like 200 people and like your 5 people show up and you're like, okay. all right, okay.
That's New York too. If you guys don't mind, I want to talk about maybe your songwriting process a little bit. So when I hear your music, I mean, I love your music. I'm a big fan, and I can hear that there's multiple influences when it comes to songwriting, and it seems like they're all sort of represented equally. I noticed on one of your descriptions, you guys call yourself like a pop soul New York band. So what does that mean to you?
What influences do you hear?
We're gonna put it in the bio.
Yeah.
So I would say it's like you have this clear sort of like R&B soul aspect to it, but then you also have this, you know, maybe like singer-songwriter sort of indie mixture. So it's kind of like a ATO band, like you know, like maybe like an Emily King, but you also have like that, and she does a bit of R&B too, but it's like a mix. It's like a perfect mix.
Yeah, and it's something I think it's fresh. You know,
it's fresh.
It's fresh and it's modern and progressive in that way. So I think that's what I get when I
can't wait to add all of these quotes. Fresh, modern, Emily King.
Yeah.
I used to say, I mean, I feel like it kind of shines through a bit. Like I studied pop songwriting and Frank studied jazz composition. And I feel like combined,
Stop telling people
there you go.
That is,
that's it.
that makes big stuff.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's kind of where it comes from. I mean, later on in your master's program, you studied like pop songwriting as well. Like you got into it, but he's also like a huge fan of Steely Dan, which I feel like kind of shines through in the songwriting as well.
Well, I think it shines through more in the production. So Grace basically writes songs to like 4-chord loops because that's the only chord she can play on guitar.
Thank you.
And then she
they turn out great, right,
they
guys?
do.
It worked well for the
I
Beatles.
mean,
yeah. But then she brings them to me, and I'm like, all right, bet. So we'll add a bunch of some lines, you know, some arrangement stuff, and then, you know.
Yeah, so it's a true collaboration in that.
Yeah, it's
regard.
definitely. And then eventually, like I think I've written maybe like majority written maybe 2 or 3 songs, but like and then. They've definitely written a lot more 50-50 now, where like she'll come with half an idea and I'll come with, and I'll.
You cannot keep this straight.
Sorry,
You're like,
it's all good.
This panning is dynamic. Coming out in stereo. Anyway, yeah. So like it's definitely been more of a like solid collaboration for the past like year, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
So Grace, for your songwriting, are you sort of thinking about the melody first or the lyrics first?
Oh, I'm definitely lyrics first, always. Yeah, 100%. And then melody, I'm like, I guess I should add that.
She's very mean when we collab. She's like, not stupid. Take that out.
So you're
idiotic.
I'm like definitely a concept writer. Like I can't start from anything other than like, what is the concept of this song?
I think that's amazing. And I was listening to your latest single, Bloom. And I found it super relatable. It was like, you know, listening to the lyrics, it's like you're especially like in your mid to late 20s, you've gone through all of these transitions in your life, whether it be relationships, jobs, different friend groups, and then you like, you know, pick your head up and you realize everyone is sort of falling into like these slots in life. Like it seems like everybody is sort of like settling into like what they're gonna be in life, and it's scary. You know, it's like, is there much time left for change, or is this sort of like what the trajectory is? You know? Yeah,
I mean, I wrote Bloom after leaving my full-time job, and so I felt like I was on a path, and I had at 26 decided to take a completely different journey, and that's how I was feeling, and Bloom kind of sort of came from that. But I do really encourage everyone to quit your jobs if you can.
Definitely.
I know that's like definitely not possible for everyone, but like if you are like feeling like you need to make a change, I feel like it's a great decision.
Yeah. Fortune favors the bold, right?
Yeah. And Grace is also obsessed with the fact that 26 is somehow an old age, which it's not.
Hey.
And she keeps bringing it up. It's rude every time.
I think in New York, you know, especially as a musician, you're so used to comparing yourself to other people's journeys, and like you can't do that. It's like it's very detrimental to your mental health. But I think a lot of people end up doing it, and so you start to think, oh well, like this person did this when they were 24, and now I'm this age, so what does that mean? You know, but I think it's different for every artist.
Everyone's on their own path, and there's no right or wrong way. And you know, there are actually a lot of examples of artists and bands who, you know, are together for years before they actually make it big. So like it's never too late. You just gotta, I think as you were alluding to earlier, Grace, it's like you can have the talent and you can have the songs and you can have the idea, etc. But ultimately, the thing that differentiates a lot of artists from, you know, in terms of how far they get is just how willing they are to dedicate themselves and persevere. And as you said, it's almost like you say quit your job, but whatever you want to do to become successful, it's another full-time job in itself. And you're very young at the age of 26, so don't need to worry about that.
Thank you.
Yeah, we definitely spend like an astronomical amount of time and energy on like this project, on big stuff, without even really noticing it. Like how much like mental energy we put into it, and how much physical time we put into it, and it's like when you look at it like stacked up against other things, like it's easily a full-time job. Like
right,
it's your baby.
It's your baby.
Yeah.
100% is like a fucking child. It's like trying to raise a child, and the child is exactly.
And I just feel like it's so important to mention, because I feel like so often in the music industry you're told that like you do a couple things and you blow up, but it's not true. Like most of the things you see on TikTok are like just industry plants. Anyways, and so I just feel like it's so important to like mention to all artists that like everyone, like we're struggling. We are, like it's
we're all
so
struggling.
hard. Like every gig we show up to, we're like, we hope people come to this.
Right.
And so like if people are ever looking at us, and when you guys say like, oh, you're doing so well, I'm like, wow, like look at us, like we look like we're doing well.
I think doing well, it doesn't always have to, like the results don't always manifest right away, but I think consistency is super important. And it's funny that you mentioned TikTok, because I was going to ask you guys, like, today, in this day and age when releasing music, I think we're in the singles market, right? Like, people are looking for quick, short clips and things like that. But you guys, you've built a sort of catalog in the short amount of time that you've been as a band. So, like, what's the thought process behind that? Like,
this is a great question. I mean, something I definitely wanted to drill down on. So I'm glad you asked this question.
We were wrong.
You can go ahead and pop the laptop open and check the streams on that second project.
Album.
So you think you guys should have put out more singles in the beginning? And
I mean, I don't think we regret doing the album. I do feel like it looks like we're a more solidified band. It seems like we have a lot more years under our belt because of the albums that we have out, but it's so much more difficult to promote the album. It often feels like you have wasted your music.
Like you have to sacrifice
because
some
you're
songs.
sacrificing the songs.
That's not going to get heard. That's not going to get heard.
And it's sad, but now we have like 10 songs right now that could easily be an album, and they will be released as singles over the next year.
We'll see them over the next year. We can see them over the next 5 years. We'll see those come out.
We had Rob Nassif, who manages a couple of bands, The Fame, and being one of them actually, and he was saying that he shared that same opinion, that for bands developing now, in his opinion, it's now all about drip feeding singles and building that momentum that way. So that's interesting to hear that through you might call it trial and error, whatever, but from your own experience, you're tending to agree with Rob on that.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like the industry is just at this point set up for singles. There is really no platform to promote your album. Even on Spotify, when you release an album, you can only submit one of the songs to be reviewed for an editorial playlist, and so it's really geared towards singles. Like they're doing their best to tell you, do not release an album.
But you know what's great about singles is you only need one.
It's true.
And so I me being a musician and growing up like with musicians and in that culture, my core tendency is to be like, no, put out the music, because at the end of the day, you guys are super talented. So if you can write a few great songs, you can write few great songs. And all you need is that one to catch a flame, and then that's gonna put you on a different trajectory. So like, I think it's good to like re-strategize and figure out like what you guys want to do. It's your personal journey, but I don't necessarily shame artists for putting out music, because I think it's great to build your catalog, because who knows, maybe when you get that single, fans are gonna come back and listen to those EPs that you put out in the beginning.
Yeah, I think it's great now that we have so much music, because I do sometimes with artists, I feel like their song blows up on TikTok and you go to see what other music they have and they don't have anything. And so I feel like it's hard to follow along their journey. So I am thankful that we have, like, I feel like you're right. Once one song catches on, hopefully they'll be excited to hear the rest of it as well.
Yeah, and I've said this before, a lot of those TikTok artists, they'll have that one song that blows up, and you'll see on Spotify or whatever, they have 100 million streams for that one song, but then the rest of them are like 30,000, 50,000, 100,000. So it's like putting in the groundwork to make fans be invested in you as an artist rather than, you know, the short, quick fuse that's going to burn out super fast, you know.
Totally. So there's one question I do want to ask, and this kind of came up in pre-production, and I think you guys said you were willing to share it, because I think it's actually a really useful kind of like life hack for a lot of artists out there who are finding their way and they're ready to get onto probably like the next level of shows, and but maybe not having the success. And we know, just having had this conversation, that Danny was like, he knows a lot of artists who would benefit from this advice. But tell us the story about that journey for you and
the Rockwood story. So
the Rockwood story.
Booking shows. Yeah. How do you guys go about that?
We met Sam back in 2011. So we were trying to book a show, an anniversary show for our first album called Nostalgia at Rockwood Stage 2. And so I had reached out via bassstufftheband at gmail.com, but I never heard back. And so I actually have to give this trick. It was not my trick. I won't name the artist just in case they don't, but it was another artist who told me to do it. And so we actually made up a manager. And so we now book all of our gigs via Sam Comiskey.
Shout out to Sam.
Shout out to Sam. I actually used a picture of my cousin Celia as the image. It's her with short hair in the distance, because I wasn't sure, like, this will work for, like, if they're looking for like a woman manager, a man, like, you know, you don't know what people are like into. And so I wanted to keep it like ambiguous. So Sam reached out to Rockwood. We actually heard back within the hour.
That's amazing.
From Rockwood.
And when you had tried to book it initially yourselves, there was no
there was no response. There was no response. Yeah. And it just, who knows if they had listened to our stuff and were interested, or if it just got lost. And with that first line of, I represent blah, 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 it's just like is more interesting to them. But it worked for Rockwood. It has worked for a couple of other venues.
I mean, and since then, Rockwood has reached out to us on several occasions asking if we have any slots open for.
It helps you get in the door, and it takes away the pressure of having to promote yourself, because I feel like you are acting as a third party who is representing you, and it just makes it a lot easier.
I mean, again, it's that legitimizing yourself. Like,
totally.
We have a manager, we have streams, we have followers.
Yeah.
Honestly, fake it. We fake it till we make it all the time.
Till you make it. Like, I think that's such a good advice.
And we said this
really
a lot.
Is.
We said this with initially with the episode about building your team, is sometimes in the beginning you can do a lot of this stuff yourself. So a lot of folks are quick to, we need a manager, we need a publicist, we need an agent. But you know, when you're coming up, a lot of that stuff you can just do yourselves, and it kind of shows like you've put in the work yourselves. So like when other people start to hop on, you know, they're going to be like, oh wow, they have a good work ethic, like you were saying before.
We do have an intern now, though.
Oh, hey.
So we did snag an intern. She helps with our social media. She comes to shows and assists, and like she takes pictures, and she shares stories, and she likes comments, and she follows people, and you know, just keeps us like active on social media. It's like because it helps the algorithm. If every day you're liking 20 posts and you make 3 comments, that's a lot. You know, you're gonna pop up on a lot more people's like explore pages and this and that.
Right.
It's all about tricking the algorithm. That's it. It's just man against machine all day.
So speaking of social media, like you guys are writing these songs, you're developing your brand. Who would you say you are making this music for? Do you guys have an audience that you know is sort of, you feel like would really relate to what Big Stuff has to say?
No.
Nice.
I mean, it's a good question, but it's like it's a tough question at this juncture, because we're
writing the music that's coming out of you.
And it's it's just sort of tough because we're sort of like writing it for anyone who will listen.
Right.
And essentially though, like our biggest thing is we write it so people will come see us live, because I think we're such a good live band, and we always end live shows with like more followers and more fans than when we started. So that's like a big thing, is like trying because we went down to that festival in Virginia, we walked away with like 80 followers, 100 followers, just because like there were people there. They didn't come to see us necessarily, but they came to see music in the vein of the music that we were into. And once they heard us, they were like, "Oh, that was dope. Like that's something that I want to follow up with. That's something I want to check out on Instagram. Follow, check out on Spotify." And like that kind of stuff is like invaluable. So I mean, of course, not just writing to get a lot of people in the door, but that is. Yeah, like, at least for me, like that's always, I'm like, yeah, we got to, if we get in front of a crowd, I think we can do our thing 1,000%.
I think that's so important to have like little goals like that.
Yeah.
Like if we can leave this show with more followers than we had the day before, like that's how it works, and just step by step by step.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I think you guys have imparted some amazing value here, and I hope our listeners get a lot out of that. Like I think already, like a few tips, like people should get on the phone to Sam. I think that's one of the big tips. And
if you guys need a manager, just reach out.
Sam can represent.
Sam is not booked and busy. He has plenty of time.
Yeah.
Oh.
And Danny has one more question for you, which will actually segue to our outro. Do you actively invite the audience to follow you?
We do.
We definitely do. We have a show at Bowery Electric on July 17th.
Do we ask the audience when we're in the questions is, do we ask?
I think we go. I'm sorry.
No,
you guys too.
No, please.
But we can also
please tell
you
us
should
about
follow
the show.
us.
Yeah, we
Big
definitely
Stuff
do.
Band.
Yeah.
But yeah, we asked them. We actually asked them multiple times throughout the show.
Yeah, and like pre-show, post-show.
We always mention our Instagram. I picked this up from somebody else, but I say like, oh, we love to watch ourselves after the show, so please tag us in videos that you take.
That's actually a really good tactic that we saw someone else do.
We saw someone else do
like,
that.
Hey, if you take any videos, like go ahead and tag us.
And that's also just great advice in general. Like I get everything I do, I get from other artists.
Yeah.
Always be
don't
listening.
Reinvent the wheel. Yeah,
don't reinvent the wheel. Like listen and go to shows and like see what other people are doing, because like there's so much to learn, and that like seriously everything I say on stage and like everything I do on social media is pretty much stolen.
We steal a lot of stuff
because like other people are doing it so well,
But it's also good that you guys are doing this, because maybe less people will have to steal. It'll be more of a open invitation to borrow.
That's the goal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, sharing knowledge.
That's the goal. So go ahead.
No, I was just saying we hope so. And like so tell us about that show one more time. That's
July 17th at Bowery Electric. We're playing with Alonzo Demetrius and the Ego, and then Cookie Nasty. So you should come out. It's gonna be a
raucous show.
It really is.
Those two bands are nuts. It's gonna be
we're trying to crowd
one.
surf.
Oh yeah,
it's gonna be
amazing.
It's gonna
I know. Honestly,
intense.
we sound like Emily King online. We do not.
Yeah, we
do not in person.
We are a very mean live band. Like we are very
we get hardcore.
Hardcore. So do you guys have any new music coming up?
We do.
We don't have a date yet.
We're
but
trying to push this one out.
Our next single only thing is going to be coming out very soon.
It's in the mixing stage now. So it'll
be soon. It'll be soon.
It's coming around. It's coming around.
Amazing. Well, again, you have something else?
No, I just wanted to thank you guys. Thank you, Franklin.
Definitely.
Thank you guys.
Thanks for having us,
big
guys.
shout out to the other members of Big Stuff that are not on the sofa. We definitely couldn't have fit all of them on the sofa.
No.
But,
Yeah, next time.
They're
Next
flexible
time.
though. They're flexible.
Next time.
So follow us at The Record Shepherds. You can listen to us where all podcasts are heard. Our email will be in the description, as well as information for Big Stuff. So email us if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. And as always, thank you guys for tuning in.
Yeah, so until the next exciting episode, continue to follow the guidance of the shepherds.
Don't be the sheep.
Be the goat.
Woo!
Thank you.
Yay! I love that.